Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning to you, our MEI friends from different time zones. We have 56 from 29 countries who registered. This is Ramon Rocha of MEI welcoming you to our webinar today. Good design starts with good words, ways for editors and designers to work together. With Michael Colley, who is joining us from down under, from Australia. Michael, please say a quick hello to our audience.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Here it's in Melbourne, Australia. It's 8 o'clock in the evening, but it's thrilling to see so many people from so many countries. So welcome, and yeah, thanks for joining us.
MEI's mission is to help equip and encourage global Christian writers and publishers to create life-transforming materials in their heart language and in their local context. That these publications will help strengthen the church and impact society. And we trust that today's webinar will especially be helpful to writers and editors and designers who are constantly faced with the challenge of coming up with an impactful title and cover design for every book they publish. We've heard about how crucial it is to grab a potential buyer's attention within 2 to 3 seconds while browsing for a book to buy at a bookstore. Well, even searching for a book online, your title and cover design should be compelling, correct? Our presenter today is Michael Colley. He has been faithfully serving as National Director of Sparklit for 15 years. Now, prior to Sparklit, Michael and his wife, Elspeth, worked with Certeza Argentina for 16 years from 1992 to 2007. And I like Sparklit's slogan, where the gospel is preached, books are needed. I certainly agree with that tagline. As the gospel is proclaimed around the world in different languages, books in all those languages are needed to help the church grow in number and in depth. Just confirms what Ecclesiastes 12:12 says, of making many books, there is no end. Before we ask Michael to start his presentation, just let me remind you to interact with us by using the chat for your comments and type in your questions anytime using the Q&A. Even during our presentation, our speaker would like to be interrupted and answer your questions right away. And if it would be helpful to you, please enable your closed captions. If you can look down your screen and click on the closed captions, enable it, that might be helpful. Okay, so Michael, please start your presentation.
I'd like to this evening, or I'd like during this webinar to give you a tool, a way of working with editors and designers. I know that people working with words and people working with pictures, perhaps editors and designers, find it difficult to work with each other, and that's because we come from different planets, word people and picture people. I want to present this to you, a tool that will help you work together. The first thing I want to say is that I think words are more important than pictures. So I'm a graphic designer, I'm a picture person, but words are more important than pictures. In fact, a good design depends on words. In fact, if you have a really good title, if you have really good words, the design is almost unimportant, and I'm going to try and demonstrate that to you. The tool I want to give you is the idea of a key word, a word that is not the title. So the key word is a word that captures the intention of the design of the cover. That is, the editor needs to tell the designer what the cover should provoke, what sensation, what mood, what feeling the cover should provoke when the potential reader sees the cover. And the key word, this word that encapsulates or the essence of what the cover should be all about, is not the same as the title. So you have a book title, but independently of the book title, we need a key word. And in fact, usually the key word should never appear in the title or the subtitle. The key word is not the title. I'm going to share our screen now. So to explain how keywords work, we're going to pass through 5 concepts. And the first one is the big idea. A keyword should express the big idea. What is the book really about? What's the point of the book? Why is this book being published? What's the big idea? Now, here we have a book cover, a book title, Have a New Husband by Friday. This is a powerful and compelling proposition. In fact, this book title is so good that we almost don't need a graphic designer. You'll notice that the design is pretty uninspiring. The design is pretty ordinary, but it doesn't matter because the title is really good. The title is compelling. The key word for this book, what is the key word? Well, I imagine the key word would be something like compelling, or an offer too good to be true, or an offer that you cannot refuse. So the concept, the big idea of this book, the cover design at least, is that it must encapsulate a proposition that's irresistible. So irresistible or compelling might be the key word. So the design is unsophisticated and brash because the proposition is very strong. This cover demonstrates that words are more important than pictures or design. The best designer in the world cannot breathe life into a lame title or lame concept. However, a strong concept is designer proof. The worst designer in the world cannot ruin a good title. Here's another irresistible proposition. Learn a language, become fluent in 3 months. Again, a strong title, the design is secondary. Another title. What's the key word? The key word is paradox or being provocative. And the title is provocative. The title is so provocative and so strong. Again, the design is secondary. Here's a book I published. The original title was My Life After Afghanistan. So here's a man who's spent 24 years in Pakistan and Afghanistan as a missionary. And this was his autobiography, My Life After Afghanistan. The best designer in the world is going to struggle to breathe life into that title. So as a designer, I picked up the book and I started reading. I find that in my experiences in publishing, authors are not very good at thinking up titles. So as a publisher, I usually tell authors that we appreciate the opportunity to publish the manuscript, and we're going to do our best to package the book. And that packaging their manuscript, their book, is our job, not theirs. So where do we get the title from? My Life After Afghanistan is not a satisfying title. It's not a provocative title. So I started reading the book, and this the author, Grant Locke, had to retire as a missionary because he went blind. And in this book, he tells the story of going to a healing service, hoping to be healed. He wasn't healed, but while he was during the service, he stood next to a woman who was confined to a wheelchair. And he pondered, he compared the position he was in, not being able to see, and the position the woman was in, not being able to walk. And he thought to himself, and he put this in writing, after looking at this woman and listening to her position, her experience, he decided, I'd rather be blind. So there we have the title. I've often found that the title is hiding somewhere in the book. But this is a title that's so good that the design is secondary. This is another experience I had as a designer. This is a world famous scientist who invented the bionic ear and has given the gift of hearing to hundreds of thousands of people around the world with his electronic artificial ear. And the title that he put to the book was Science, Faith and Passion. Well, the best designer in the world will struggle to make a title like that live. So again, as the designer, I took the liberty of reading the book, and there's a beautiful story in this book where, as a young boy, Graham Clark grew up, tells the reader what it was like growing up with a father who was deaf. And the father was had a pharmacy and sold medicine, and he was deaf. And this was a great cause of embarrassment for everyone, because people would come asking for medication for delicate or personal problems, and the pharmacist had to ask everyone to speak up, please, so that he could hear. And as a young boy, Graham was mortified. He was embarrassed for his father. And at school, when the teacher asked him, Graham, what do you want to do when you grow up? He said, I want to fix ears. Now, there are many people in the world who could write a book called Science, Faith and Passion, but there's only one person in the world who could have written a book with the title, I Want to Fix Ears, because he's the only person who's done that. So inside the book, the title was hiding. The title is more important than the design in this instance.
Michael.
Yep.
I like what you're doing, because several times the designer would just take everything, what's given to him. This is the title, create a book design, a cover for this. You would challenge what's given to you. And that's excellent. I mean, you will not just say, that title is not really provocative or compelling, and you would read the book and try to find the right title for the book.
Well, actually, I kind of resent doing that. I don't think I should do that, because it's the editor's job.
Mm-hmm.
So often editors are unhappy with the work of the designer. I would suggest that sometimes that's because the editor hasn't adequately briefed the designer, and I'll get on to how we can do that. And
By
this
the
is
way,
where
by the way,
keywords
Michael,
become important.
yeah, by the
Yep.
way, in several instances, it would be the self-published writer who is negotiating with a designer to come up with a.
Yeah, this is there's a problem here. There's a problem when the author is financing the publication or publishing the book themselves. The publisher is often not in a position to challenge the author, and the designer is not always in a position to challenge the editor. I acknowledge that. I'm a difficult designer. I'm the worst possible designer in the world, because when the publisher gives me a title, I might say, I don't think that's a go, and they'll say, well, do better. And so I read the book. So there is a dialogue that has to happen. But I think when editors are unsatisfied or unhappy with the work of the designer, I often think that's because the editor hasn't done their job, and they haven't actually done the hard work of coming up with a good title and a key word. And I'll get onto that in a moment. But
Matt Little is asking, do you ever get a pushback when you suggest a new title?
Yes, from Graham Clark, the scientist. He's accomplished amazing things. And at one point he told me, I'm not used to taking no for an answer. But the beauty of suggesting a title that's the author's own words from their book is that it's the author's own words. And so after a moment, when I suggested that he was adamant that the title should have been Science, Faith and Passion. And when I suggested that I didn't think that was a great title, he was not happy. And he said, yeah, I'm not used to taking no for an answer. However, I went and read the book. And when I suggested to him that we use the words he uttered as a child, there was a pause, and they're his words. And he could see the sense that this was a story. These words were powerful, and they're his words. So it wasn't that hard. But yes, traditionally, where a publisher was investing and paying for the production of the book, they had a bit more leverage over the process. Now, these days, when an author is often financing the publication, the author has, in fact, too much power and too much say. And really, a smart author will want a team of people. Publishing is a team sport. It's a team activity. You need different voices, different skills. The problem with an author having the technology and the means of publishing their own book is that they often do without, they don't have the benefit of the team of specialists that publishing really requires. My second point is that the key word, that is the word that is a one-word expression of the essence of the book, a word that is not the title, is that it suggests the mood that the cover should convey, and this immediately will suggest a color, perhaps. So if the book is violence or menace, the cover might be red. Green can mean refreshing, growth, but it can also mean poison or toxic. romance, purple. The key word here is authority. Blue is the color of authority and confidence, security. Yellow can mean many things. It can mean optimism, fun, urgency, or practical. So the key word immediately suggests a mood that's not necessarily suggested by the title. Now we get to the heart of the matter. This is how keywords work. Now what I want you to do now is I want you to pick up a sheet of paper, and I want you to pick up a pen, and I want you to design a book cover. I'm going to give you a title, and I want you to design the cover. And you'll have 30 seconds to design this cover. So I want you to draw a rectangle representing a book. I'm going to give you a title, and then I'm going to give you 30 seconds to come up with a design. So the title of the book is Heaven. You have 30 seconds.
Michael,
H-E-A-V-E-N. I've just typed it into the chat.
Michael, you should click on everyone, not just the hosts and panelists. When you.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
I'll try that again. Okay. Our time is up. Okay, I want you to tell me, actually, let me guess. Let me guess what you've done. Is it something like this? Or this? It's almost inevitable that when I say heaven, you're going to draw a cloud. This is because heaven in our visual language is associated with angels, clouds, wings.
We always look up when we hear the word heaven.
Just about every book on heaven has clouds or wings, but mostly clouds. And if you have to design a cover for a book about heaven, one thing I can tell you is the world doesn't need another cover with clouds. We've got plenty. Now, I want to analyze what is happening here. And if you've got a copy of this sheet here that you were sent, you can start filling in and making notes. You'll see there are 3 circles linked. So what's happened here is that the designer has been given a brief. We've been told that the title for the book is Heaven. And naturally, we'll think of clouds. Why is this natural? Well, it's because it's a habit. It's habitual thinking. It's a normal part of the visual language of our culture, of my culture at least. So as a designer, I take my proposal to the editor, and it's a cover with clouds. And the editor might think, this looks familiar, I've seen this before, I don't like it. And so the evaluation is that I don't like it. However, what's wrong with it? The designer has fulfilled the brief. The brief was heaven. The cover has clouds, but for some reason, it's not really satisfying the desire for something different or something new. But we're trapped. If all we have is the title, there's almost an inevitability about the result. So what I'm suggesting is that we introduce a key word. So the title is no longer at the center of our thinking, but we have a key word. So the title's still the same. The title is still heaven. However, we're going to introduce a word that is not the title. I call this the key word. The key word is abstract. It's not concrete. Wonder, for instance. Now, rather than giving us clouds, wonder is going to give us something else. We're going to have a picture that might be expression of surprise. How do we evaluate? So the result is not clouds. The key word enabled us to escape from clouds, from our habitual thinking. The key word guaranteed that we're not going to get the same result as always. The key word enables us to escape from habitual thinking. And it enables us to evaluate the result. It is pointless saying, I don't like it. So whenever we're evaluating a design, it's not helpful saying, I don't like it. It's meaningless. However, if we have a key word, we can evaluate the design and ask ourselves, does the design fulfill, does it match the key word? So keywords for a book. The keyword for this book cover was actually part of the title, basic. Water is basic, a basic requirement of life. So rather than having a cross or a church, we had water. The key word for this book is practical. It's a series of books, and the key word for the series is practical or unintimidating, accessible, practical. What was the key word for this book cover, do you think? It's a book about how to manage your mental health. It's okay not to be okay. What's the key word? I think the key word is empathy or sympathy. And you'll notice how the designer has been given this concept and the way the photo has been arranged. The woman is informally dressed, no jewelry. She's leaning against the wall. She's not standing up, looking robust and confident. She's being supported by the wall. The cover fulfills the key word, which was empathy.
Michael,
this is a novel. Yep.
Even coming up with the right keyword, you may have to do a bit of a brainstorming.
Yeah, I think the editor is in a position to do that. If the editors read the manuscript, and in fact, if they've edited the manuscript, they should have a feel for what the book's about. And it's a great title. The title gives you permission to not feel as though you have to be in control, that you don't have to feel buoyant and happy. It gives you permission to be just how you are.
Yeah,
I
because
think I think the editor is in a position to be able to provide the keyword.
and could perhaps brainstorm with the author and brainstorm with the designer too as well.
Yeah. Look, it's fantastic when you have a dialogue between designer, editor, and other, and also not just the author, but also the marketing people.
Marketing, yes. Everyone.
My fondest memories working in publishing in Argentina were working alongside our editor and our marketing people, and we would brainstorm. We didn't actually use keywords. This is something that's just I've learned the hard way more recently. But yes, the more voices, the better. And I would even include booksellers. I would take my design proposals, I would print it off, wrap it around an existing book, put it in the bookshelf, and ask the sales assistant what they thought, because they're the people who make a living selling books. They know. It's also, when you take a sample of your design to the bookshop, you see that, everyone else is, all the other books on Heaven have got clouds on them too. Maybe I need to think of something else. It's very difficult to evaluate a proposal or a design for a cover on the computer, because when the book's filling the screen, it always looks radiant and wonderful. It looks less wonderful when it's competing against other book titles in a bookshop, or when it's competing with other titles on the computer screen and they all look the size of your thumbnail. So
yeah, we have a question here from Inge. Do you think the keywords are the same as the keywords for the library, which are sometimes written in the impressum for cataloging the book? Or
yes, no, they aren't.
keywords
And
for
I'll
the
explain
designer?
why. The keywords have to be abstract. So I'll just go back to, you'll notice that clouds is a concrete idea. So with heaven, this is heaven's a place. It's a sort of a concrete idea, and clouds is a concrete idea. However, when we have an abstract word, oops, sorry, we go backwards. Okay, so wonder is an abstract. It's an abstract word, and so is surprise. So it's an abstract word that allows us to escape from habitual thinking. So words that are used for classification in a library tend to be concrete terms. What we're looking at here are abstract ideas, feelings, attitudes. That's what we're really looking for we'll look at more keywords as we go. So here's another. What's the keyword here? Cannibals in love. There's something ambiguous here, isn't there? Because at one level it looked warm. It's the color of flesh. In fact, it is flesh. But the flesh forms a jagged shape like teeth. So there's something ambiguous about this book cover. And I think that's what the intention is. One of the great things about the keyword is it often enables you to do something that's very inexpensive. So for instance, this cover, all you need is a mobile phone, a friend doing that, and you've got the image for the cover. You don't have to have cannibals, or you don't have to have any action. The drama is in the concept of skin, teeth made out of skin. It's a really strong idea, and it's very easy and inexpensive to execute. Here's another cover that's pretty easy to set up. So what's the keyword here? The title is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. So here we have a keyword has enabled the designer to produce a cover design that contradicts the title. You see what would happen if all we had was the title, Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. We'd have, if that's all the designer was given, we'd have a picture of a woman with a smile on her face. But the book is clearly not about a life that went according to plan. So what's the key word? It's got to be something like menace or catastrophe, or again, it could be ambivalent. It's the burnt matches, a house made of burnt matches would suggest that everything's not fine. So here we have a design that contradicts the title. You won't get a design that contradicts the title if all the designer has is the title. You need a key word. The key word could be contradiction or a paradox or menace, but the title alone is not going to yield a cover as clever as this one. It's a clever cover because it is very inexpensive to make. You don't need to hire photographers and studios and models. All you need is a box of matches and a camera. So what's the keyword here? I'm not suggesting in this instance that the designer was given a keyword, but again, we have an image that contradicts the title. In fact, it's the exact opposite. The keyword is probably something like adventure. Come away from the water surely is the refrain, a worn refrain of a mother speaking to a daughter at the beach. Is the daughter listening to the mother? It doesn't look like it, does it? The daughter is enjoying an adventure despite the words of the mother. So the key word, maybe adventure in this case, invites irony, drama. Drama happens when the title disagrees with the image. This is drama, where the title says one thing, but the image says another. We've already mentioned that the keyword enables evaluation, an evaluation a bit more profound than I don't like it. We're able to ask instead, does the design proposal reflect the keyword? It gives us, the keyword gives us an objective evaluation, the opportunity to evaluate the proposal against an objective idea, in this case, the keyword. So we've seen that the keyword expresses the big idea. The keyword indicates mood. The keyword enables us to escape from habitual thinking. I want to propose now that the keyword should never appear on the cover. So here's a cover it's a novel, it's a horror story, and maybe the keyword is horror. The title of the story is The Bear. Now, there's drama here. The drama is generated by the fact that you cannot see the bear. There is no bear. Do the children know that there's a bear? We don't know. The key word is menace or horror. There's a bear, and the children don't know it yet. Interestingly, this book has been translated into other languages. And when it was translated into Turkish, the designer couldn't resist putting in the bear. But I think when the title, you see this designer was just given the title, The Bear. And without the keyword, bear equals a bear. So the title and the image are exactly the same. You're not going to generate drama by doing that. In other languages as well, people couldn't resist putting the bear in somewhere. So here you have a bear's footprint with the claws. Another publisher on another continent took up the original idea, children in a forest in a camp, no bear. That works. This is the Vietnamese edition. Again, a bit over the top. It would have, I think this is what works best. And you'll notice that it's a very inexpensive solution. It's a slightly amateurish drawing of two children walking into the light. You could take a photo like, you could go and visit your nieces and nephews and take a photo just like that in the doorway, and then render it in paint, and you've got a cover. So keywords enable you to avoid going to the zoo and trying to find a bear. You don't need, if you use a keyword and escape from habitual thinking, the solutions are often very inexpensive. So a good idea does not require an expensive execution. Again, here's a Shoot Me First is a pretty provocative title. It wasn't the original title of the book, but it comes from an incident in the book where the author had to look down the barrel of a gun and refused to be told what to do. He said, if you're going to shoot my workers, you'll have to shoot me first, in a fit of anger. He then wondered what sort of mess he'd got himself into, but you'll have to read the book to find out how he got out of that mess. But again, this is a title that came from the book. They're the author's own words. You'll notice there's no guns in this picture. I didn't have to find a photo of people shouting and waving guns in the air. What I showed was how the author might have looked if he was staring down the barrel of a gun. So I didn't have to leave the action took place in Pakistan. I didn't have to go to Pakistan to make this cover. And I was inspired by this book. This is, I think, one of my favorite book covers. And you'll notice that it's a picture of Moses looking at the burning bush. And I've never yet seen an artist render the burning bush in a way that's remotely convincing. I've never seen that done. It's best to avoid trying to do that. And here we show the burning bush is absent, but we show the impact that the burning bush has on Moses. So we can see that it's at night. One half of his face is lit by the moon. The other side of his face is lit by something that's burning. This is the best illustration I've ever seen of that event where where God appears to Moses in the burning bush. And it's successful because it does not show the bush, but it shows the impact that the bush has. So I emulated that by showing the impact that being confronted by someone holding a gun has on the author. You don't need a gun. This is a book that was produced by my friends at Certeza Argentina, and the original title for the book was Unbreakable Woman. And this is a case where the designer and the editor and the author, we renegotiated. And rather than showing the unbreakable woman, we took unbreakable as the key word. And the title is when life knocks you about, or when life knocks you down, you can keep going. But the original title, we disappeared and made the key word. So the key word was unbreakable. We tried to think of something that was unbreakable.
That's a diamond.
A diamond's unbreakable, and love is unbreakable. So there's a diamond in the shape of a heart.
Shape of a heart.
So there needs to be a dialogue between the designer and the editor and others as well. But the editor has to supply good words. If you want a good design, the editor has to supply an adequate brief, which includes keywords, words that are not the title, an abstract word, which will enable the designer to escape from habitual thinking and produce something that has drama, irony, that arouses curiosity, that provokes a feeling that is what the book's all about.
What you're teaching us, Michael, is that to go away from the traditional tendency to be literal in your cover. I mean, the title, the image is exactly what the title is. So get away from the literal way of.
Yeah. So if we're producing books for very young children or people learning to read, then the title and the image may need to be exactly the same. So if it's a book about the alphabet, you have the letter A, you have an apple. If you're teaching someone to read, there has to be an equivalence. However, when people become more sophisticated as adult readers, we need to be more provocative, and we need to depart from what people expect. I've avoided using the word creative, but creative thinking is being able to escape from habitual thinking. So this is what I've outlined today is just one of many ways in which we can sort of trick ourselves or force ourselves into doing something that's not the same as we've always done. And the key word that is not the title is one way of doing that. If there's any questions, I'd be delighted to.
Okay. Do we have questions from our audience? You can use the chat or the Q&A. I hope you got Michael's main point. The key teaching of Michael.
In the chat, I'm going to put my email address. I'm happy for people to write to me at any time.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Okay, I think that template is very helpful. The template that
This one?
yeah, I think that's really helpful. So you may have to have that ready when you brainstorm, thinking about, that. Or you may, as in several instances, you may have to change the title, right?
Yes, I think often publishers, when they're working on a book, they have what they call a working title, which is it's a good idea, because that's an acknowledgement that the title that's originally proposed is not the final title. Titles need to do a number of things. A book title needs to reflect honestly what the book's about. So we don't want to deceive someone or disappoint someone by having a title that's inaccurate. But the title also needs to set the book apart from all the books that have already been published about a certain theme or on a certain topic. Creating a good title is hard work, and we need to remember that. And so if a good title is not apparent at the beginning of the project, it's good to have a working title so that we can be open to having changes.
Have you received feedback from the readers after you have implemented those, the cover and the title and the image?
Well, the readers are, of course, unaware of all this discussion that happens. So you really have to evaluate the book on how it sells. So it's a bit difficult. You can actually, when we're producing a book before it's published, we can certainly create a number of proposals, different designs, even different titles, and test them on people. So you can get a group of people together in a room who represent your audience and show them the proposals and ask for them to comment. Or you can just you can do this a number of ways. You can print the cover proposal, wrap it around a book, an existing book, to make it look like a book. You could just leave the books, these sample books, put them on a table, and then let people go into the room and just watch which books they grab first, which are the most attractive books, and listen to them talking. You can ask questions. So there's a number of ways you can do this. But I always take a book design proposal to a bookshop, and I ask the booksellers for their opinions. They'll be very frank. They appreciate being consulted, because they're very used to receiving boxes of books and not having any say in how these books are produced. And sometimes they see a book and roll their eyes and think, don't the publishers know that we've already got 20 books that look just like this? And that's because they didn't go to the trouble of researching what's already in the marketplace.
So Bernice typed in this comment. This has really been helpful, Michael. We are currently grappling with a title that tries to cover the range of articles that are within a collection. Suggesting an abstract keyword will be a great exercise to get us closer to making the book more appealing. Yeah. Thank you, Bernice.
Bernice from Singapore?
Istvan said, from Hungary.
Yeah, publishing a book that has a collection of articles by different people presents an additional challenge.
Yeah.
But the same thing applies. The person who edited the book needs to think, okay, so what's the big idea? What's the point? Why are we publishing this book? What's the key motivation? What's the point? And we can't always, if you're not paying the designer to read the book, you can't expect them to read the book. And so really the onus is on the editor. It's the editor's responsibility to have clarity about why this book is important, and to be able to tell the designer, when people see this cover, I want them to think of this. I want them to feel curious. I want them to feel intrigued. What do you want the cover to achieve? It's hard work, and it's the editor's job. It's the editor's responsibility.
Quite a big responsibility on the shoulders of the editor.
Well, yes. Publishers actually need to read the books they're publishing. Now, that doesn't always happen, but you actually need to, if you're producing books, if you're publishing books, you need to love books, you need to love reading, and you need to love your readers. And you just have to read the books you're publishing. And if you're expecting the designer to do that as well, you need to pay them extra.
All right, Sunday, Alexis said, thanks for your presentation. Thank you, Alexis. Other comments or questions for Michael? We're running out of time, but we really appreciate your presentation, Michael. This is really enlightening and challenging for editors, publishers, and designers to really come up with the keywords and the right provocative, compelling title and image for the cover design. Can we again hear from you, Michael, your final words of encouragement for our audience?
Well, if you're a Christian publisher, you have a wonderful vocation, and I'd like to encourage you. Your work's important. The organization I work with, we have a motto, we have a saying, where the gospel is preached, books are needed. And that's always been the case. Wherever the gospel has been preached, wherever there's a church, wherever God has raised up a people, it has always been a reading and writing community. It's always been a reading and writing community. So books, I've had people I work with in South Sudan say to me, without the books, the church cannot grow. Simple as that. It's not something I say, it's something they say. So books are vital to the church, and good books are vital to the church, and it's always been that way. And in fact, even before the Christian era, as your words from Ecclesiastes, there were too many books even back then. But there's a need. We need to encourage each other to think about what God wants from us, what God wants us to do, and the formation of the Christian mind is very important. And we need to be thoughtful people, and we need to be reading people. It's a growing Christian is a reading Christian, and if you're expecting to teach and preach, you must read.
Mhm. And it's encouraging that books will be around until the second coming.
Yep.
Will there be books in the new heaven and new earth?
I don't know. There'll be books or something better.
Okay, that's good. Thank you so much, Michael. This is really a great.
You're most welcome.
And thank you,
I'd love to,
everyone.
if you have, if people have would like to tell me about their experience of how the creative process works for you, how keywords are helping or not, I'd love to hear from you.
Mhm.
I'm still learning. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael, again, and thank you, everyone. We hope to see you again next month for our webinar. This is about collaboration and partnerships in publishing with Sam Richardson. We will send out the invitation to all of you in our mailing list, and you can invite your friends and colleagues if the topic is appropriate and interesting. You might want to pass on the email invitation to your friends. So thank you. Have a good day. Have a good restful evening for those of you who are in the evening time zone. So God bless you all, and thank you for joining us for this webinar. Goodbye for now.